All right. Let's get into it.
Well, it's Friday.
It is Friday.
And we're here for episode 6.
We're going to quit counting one of these times, I think.
Well, I almost forgot.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm going to give you guys till 10.
Yeah.
And then that's good.
We made it to 5 solid. So this one was questionable. After this, it's a shot in the dark. But anyways, welcome to another episode of Warfighter Tobacco Podcast. Today we actually have a guest on.
We do.
Oh, God, am I the first guest?
We found somebody that likes us enough to come record.
Well, to be fair, he was already here.
Yeah, and he had no idea what he was getting into.
And
We're like, hey, man, you want to sit in this weird seat over here at the end of the table and put these headphones on? Then we're going to ask you some questions.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got enough booze in me. I'll do it.
That's the whole game plan. Get them drunk enough that they say yes.
So Jazz.
Yes.
What's your name? Where are you from? What do you do?
So I'm Jazz. I am a proudly from San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah.
Came from a military background, so I have kind of lived all over, both internationally and nationally.
Right.
So you were a Army brat.
I am an Army brat. I'm also Army myself, so a real prior Army.
When did you serve?
I served from 07 to 13.
Okay.
And
what'd you do?
I was psychological operations the entire time. I'm what the Army refers to as a Psyop baby.
That's fun.
It was an interesting job. We definitely weren't bored.
So they taught you how to manipulate people.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. We preferred our full mission line.
Yeah.
Was the truthful dissemination of information to bring a target audience in line with the American initiative.
That's very political.
That is
that's
fancy way.
Yeah, there you go. Which is the fancy way of saying, say what needs to be said to get them to do what you want them to do.
So manipulation.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's to really break it down. If you look at any of the major campaigns you've ever seen.
Yeah.
If I show you a logo with like handwritten script, red and white, the first thing you're going to think of is going to be something like
Coca-Cola.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was going Russia.
No, that's if you're hungry.
That's yellow and red.
And that's yellow and red, which if you look at the ad structure of yellow and red,
yeah.
It almost always has to do with hunger, which is the hilarious thing about if you look at
McDonald's.
the Russian flag, it's yellow and red. Yeah. So, but the red and white,
right?
You instantly went to red and white script. That's Coca-Cola. So that is the idea of injecting a model into a community that just gets them to respond instantaneously to. And then the ultimate goal with them is you can have off brands, but if it's close to original Coca-Cola, it's just still just referred to as Coke.
Right.
And so that's kind of the mindset of if you put the right information into the market, you can end up just being the instant response for the solution.
Right.
And that was my job. It was to change a mindset to get behavior the way you wanted it.
What year did you go to basic training?
07.
And what year did you deploy and where to?
10 and then 11 as well. And I went to both theaters. So
Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yes.
All right. And if
I'm a little cagey on some of these, it's I still have so I had a secret clearance. So there's some of my stuff is still on timeline stuff. So if I'm a little cagey on answers, I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just there's some stuff that I know.
So I think the description you gave of what you did might be kind of vague for people to understand exactly what you did.
So
give us the non-security clearance
daily
elevator speech of what
you
did when you deployed.
Yeah, when you were there,
let's start with some of the campaigns that the average person, even if you were just watching your choice of news service, so the Purple Thumb campaign that was running around when the first elections happened in Iraq, and they were showing everybody with the inkblot thumbs, right? So that was a PSYOP campaign.
Yeah.
That was the idea of look, we're not just here kicking indoors. We're changing stuff.
Yeah.
So that was
help you.
That was a Psyop campaign of the Purple Thumb campaign, because that was how we were doing IDs. It was ink blot, you stamped your thumb, and then we were getting pictures of everybody with the purple thumb.
Right.
So that was to inject into the population of, here's the actual change that's happening. This isn't just a fight. This is actually to change things and to increase the population involvement with what's going on with your government. That was a Psyop campaign.
Right.
The other stuff that happens, you're Baghdad boys. You were there for part of that stuff. When the new newspapers and stuff started coming out, if you notice a lot of the stories that were in there, it wasn't about what was lost. It was always about what was gained. It's always about the positive changes and stuff that happened. All of those printings were all controlled by the Psyop branch. Like that was all nice. Like, so we did all of that. The radio station broadcasts that were going out that had all those lovely posters that said like, you go beyond this and we will shoot you. All of those radio station controls, that was all me. Well, not me, but that was what Psyop did.
So what did you do specifically on your deployments?
So our stuff was far more focused on, so I was the precursor to what are known as MIST teams. MIST teams then transitioned over to UN assistance and working with ambassadors.
Right.
My mission focus was on, we focused primarily on, sorry, with having to walk in the door and I got distracted. It's a squirrel. We focused on local and centralized leadership. So my mission objective was to go in and talk to localized and centralized leadership and get leadership change. So the model was known as third party credibility. So it was, don't listen to the American, but if I can get your local sheikh to tell you the same thing that I'm saying, then we can. So we weren't looking at the whole, like, hopefully we'll get a couple. It was, I have to convert the one, because if the one then goes and tells everybody that views him as important, as his message is important. And so my mission objective was to go in and talk to that local leader, get him to say what I needed him to say.
Right.
Because that third party credibility, somebody you already trust telling you that, hey, this is a good idea, then that can change mission objective.
It's essentially the Psyops adapted the train the trainer mindset.
It was very much
influence the influencer.
It was a T3 model. We absolutely, you're spot on. We stole the T3 model, and it was like, I don't need to retrain everybody if I can just retrain the subject matter expert.
That's it. I need one guy.
If I can get the SME to take my viewpoint. Now, a lot of our mission, we also worked hand in hand with the civil affairs guys. So civil affairs and psychological operations are two sides of the same coin.
Right.
So we would do things like, do you guys remember seeing like the Med Ready missions and all that stuff that would go out and it was like, hey, there's going to be a doctor or a veterinarian or whatever in this market at this time. So what we would do is we would go in and talk to the local leadership and then go like, hey, if you give me this information, or if you agree to give me information for this timeline, I will bring you these assets that you need to improve your community. So you help me and I help you. And so it was always a mutually beneficial model. And that's what we were hunting down. So I wasn't the focus on the leaflet drops and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't my jam. What we did was far more of the one-on-one handoff kind of stuff. It transitioned to what's now known as a MIST team. The MIST teams are now, these are psychological operations guys. These are full-time active duty Army guys. But they get to wear the suit and the whole 9 yards, and they go to embassies and they work with ambassadors.
Nice.
And so they'll go to meetings, they'll watch behavior, they'll come back, they'll do single target audience analysis, and then break that psychological profile down and go, this is how you need to talk to that guy to get him to agree with you so that we can start injecting. That was my mission parameter.
So what you did when you were in is drastically different than the Psyops guys that were attached to our unit when we deployed No. 3.
I was just about to ask. So our first, like when John and I were both infantry guys together, I didn't even know Psyops was a fucking thing until we saw them.
Well, you got to keep in mind in 03, Psyop was only 6 years old.
And our first experience with Psyops is the same because we were in the same platoon.
So we jumped the berm. We did everything that we were going to do. We took airfield Nanajov. And that next morning, these random trucks showed up with these big ass fucking loudspeakers on top.
Yeah.
And they're like,
otherwise known as bullet magnets.
These guys are attached to you now. And all of us grunts were like, who the fuck
why do we need a Humvee
guys?
with speakers?
Yeah. And so literally like that, we did our mission brief, the whole 9, and we fucking marched out that gate. And as soon as we took a step out of that gate and that fucking front tires of the Humvee cleared the gate, they turned those speakers on and it was nothing but Arabic. And obviously none of us spoke Arabic. So we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Are these people attached to us just scream like
loud?
We're doing a mission. Shut the fuck up. But then once we got to talk to these guys, we realized that they were helping us in our mission. And they were essentially like, hey, we're here. If you want to fuck around and find out, we're here.
But we don't want to harm innocents.
But we're coming into this area. So if you don't mean harm, kindly fuck off.
Yeah.
Well, I think more exactly of what it said was we don't want to cause harm to any innocent people. Go back in your houses.
Yeah.
If you're not a threat to us, we won't treat you like one, yada, yada. And
but there was probably also the byline of there's an assumption of threat. If we're here and you're on the street, we assume
absolutely
that you're here to fuck around and find out. But so there's an assumption of threat message that's always included. So.
The silver lining of the Psyop detachment that was with us was it might have been, I don't know, 45 minutes into the patrol.
Yeah.
And
so
we get into a firefight.
Our very first impressions were like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like, this is dumb.
And 45 minutes later, the bullets start flying.
Yeah.
And hats off to, I guarantee you, is some E4.
They kicked the God box on?
That kicked the God box on.
Yeah,
he kicked it off. He hooked up his own MP3 player because that's what we had back in those days.
That's the God box.
And he kicked it back on. And it was drowning pool. Let the bodies hit the floor.
Yeah, so
John and I are balls deep in a firefight.
We might have been the first unit that Psyops played that during a firefight.
It was a popular request.
Balls deep.
We didn't request it.
No,
this dude was like, "Oh, it's my time to shine." I threw my cigar. I'll tell you, it was fun.
We were balls deep in a firefight, and on the fucking speaker system comes "Let the bodies hit the floor." The bad guys and us simultaneously stopped shooting.
Yeah, but who recovered quicker?
Oh, we did. Once we realized what song it was.
But it was a solid 5-second pause, which felt like fucking forever.
Yeah, it was like a 10-minute fucking ceasefire.
5 seconds, nobody shooting. Everybody's head peeks up like, what the hell am I listening to? And then we're like, oh, fuck yeah. And then it erupted into goddamn gunfire.
So this isn't restricted information, awesome. And I'll let you guys know what happened. So in a Psyop truck, we have that huge speaker box that's on top.
Yeah.
So efficacy range on that in an urban environment is 1 mile.
Okay.
So you can hear that speaker pack
it was loud as shit.
For a mile. It's loud as shit.
Yeah.
It's also, we also referred to it as the bullet magnet. They figured out very quickly the kind of stuff that we were projecting out of it. So they would just start shooting at it.
Oh, I would have too. I'd be like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sleep. God damn it.
But the efficacy mile in an urban environment is a mile on that speaker pack. We can get into all the other bullshit about open land, over water, all that, where it changes, but it doesn't matter. It was almost always an urban environment, so it doesn't matter.
Can verify you could hear it a mile away.
Yeah, it's a mile. It's a good speaker. In a Psyop Humvee that has that speaker track, which by the way eats our turret. So
you have no defense.
Yeah, we don't get to put a 240 or an M2 or anything on top of the truck. Like it's a speaker pack and that's it. And it still pivots on the turret system. It just now you can also use that for close range subdue. Like you can point that at something and then there's sounds that you can put through it that will literally just you just don't want to function anymore.
So loud.
But that's wired down to this thing that we refer to as the God box. So in that God box is just about any type of connector that you could possibly imagine. There isn't anything that we couldn't plug into it to make that noise. And one of them is just a 2.5 millimeter fucking headphone jack.
Yeah, damn right.
And so you are correct. In that time period, we all just had, it was iPods or just whatever bullshit MP3 player
There's
had.
no streaming.
And you could plug it in. Now, I will tell you that was the only time the Army has ever issued me an Apple product because they issued us iPods.
Nice.
And
because they fucking worked.
But we could load whatever we wanted on it. And it's a solid state device and we could have whatever we wanted. And we had And you need to keep in mind, the Psyop community is as weird as we are, and everybody wants to do the whole, like, you're the guys that stare at goats, and you're the guys that do. Yes, that's us. We're the fucking weirdos. We understand.
We guys didn't stare at goats until that movie came out.
Right. And so thanks, George Clooney.
It was a good movie.
But at the same time, you know, we still did basic. We still carried rifles. We still wore the uniform. There's still an E4 mafia. Like all of that still exists in the Psyop community. We knew what made the mission drive forward. And so we had essentially like a best of list on all of our iPods.
When your job, and I kind of feel bad for saying it like this, but it kind of
our job is combat. It's combat disruption. That's our job.
It's that, and it's manipulation.
Yeah.
Well, but it's on both sides, right? Because it doesn't matter what your mission is, and it doesn't matter which side you're trying to get the mission completed on. You're going to use manipulation against U.S. forces and against the enemy to get your mission completed.
For U.S. forces and then against the enemy.
Yeah.
So
it's psychological operations.
Let me rephrase what I said. You're going to use your skills against the U.S. Army and against the enemy to get your mission complete. Because your mission is different than our mission.
Right.
But you're going to do whatever you can do to get us to do what you need us to do to get your mission complete.
Yes.
Which is manipulation.
Absolutely.
So I understand what you're trying to say, you don't have to be PC here.
You're not wrong.
So by manipulation, John is referring to motivation that we got
whatever you want to put it down.
I will tell you right now, I have never seen a stack move faster than we ran Metallica's Fuel right before they were going to kick it.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
So any of us that have ever stood in a stack, there's a count to it. So you stack on the wall, and then there's a countdown. And because there's the weight shift back, and then there's a weight shift forward.
I think instead of count, you want to go with cadence.
There's a cadence.
And then when Metallica plays, you go to that cadence.
Right, you can time it. And it's aggressive as fuck.
And you'd wait for the stack to actually be on the wall. Well, for those of you that know what I'm talking about, there's a stack. So you'd watch the stack happen, you'd watch it, and then you'd hit it. And you'd hear Hammett come through the speakers, and it would go, give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Boom,
and then the door would just breach.
breach.
And if you want to watch motherfuckers move, and so, yes, there was. Now, at the same time, we also know our guys can hear that, and the dudes on the other side of the door can also hear that. And so it was when you can manipulate a situation to where it's my guys are fighting better and they're fighting worse.
Yeah.
No grunt has ever looked at me and gone, I really don't appreciate that you did that during our celebration. That has never been a thing. But yes, it was a twofold manipulation thing. They changed it afterwards and started calling it human topography. Human topography was the idea of like how a environment is behaving with the U.S. military influence versus not the influence.
Right.
So we would get information from the locals, but one of our most valuable targets was literally the grunts. It was the 11 series guys. It was the guys that were kicking indoors. And it's like, when you're dealing with a non-hostile local, what is their behavior like?
Right.
But everybody had stories. And so you had to know how to listen to those stories and pull the information you needed on how to then change the behavior that we were eliciting, like the behavior we wanted to get done, even off the stories of like, bro, you got to hear what happened today. And so we would listen to every story that you guys had.
It's going to help you on a future
because
mission.
then we could do that and we could impact it into the mission.
Yeah.
Well, I think as an example, if you go into a house that's a non-threat for whatever, security purposes, whatever, right? And all the people in the house are very compliant. Like that would be something you guys would want to know.
Absolutely. And
versus somebody who's going to push back a little bit and
that's the
motherfuck
human, that's the human topography model.
Yeah.
Because what we see is that it was happening in regions. So it was, hey, this neighborhood, we'd go do a knock and talk. And then there was other times that you had to go do a knock and talk. And there's two different reactions that you were getting. And that was the big throughput. There was a lot of especially in the early stages of it. People didn't know what our purpose was.
Right.
Are you guys familiar with a bub? So a bub is a battle update brief.
Okay.
They happen daily. It is typically all of the field grade and above, whoever your star is that's in charge of your fob, whether it's a 2-star or 3-star, your divisional leader that's that's his battle space. Yeah. Everybody ends up reporting to that. You guys were part of a very large.
Yeah.
So it would typically, so the patch on the arm of that 1-star, 2-star, something like that would be probably something like it'd be the angry chicken, or it'd be something like that. Well, when we would show up, we would literally have to essentially tell this guy why he shouldn't kick us off his fob.
Okay.
So you had to go to these bubs, and it was really interesting. So you'd show up as an E4 and E5. On the high end, you're an E6.
Yeah.
And you'd have to brief this general on why the fuck he shouldn't tell you to go pound sand and find something else to do. And I got my brief down to, because you had 90 seconds. It was like 90 seconds of why you shouldn't fire me, right? And I got it down to, sir, my job is to make sure that everything I am doing is removing the people in front of your rifles that you don't need to shoot.
Yeah.
So everybody's still standing in front of your guns as somebody that's a viable target, because the last thing we want to do is shoot one and make 2 more.
Yep.
And as soon as you could get them to understand that, you had a job and you could stay, because they were totally within your rights of going,
I think
get off my fob.
I think
it's like, oh shit.
You know, in hindsight with maturity, you probably weren't selling him on that was the notion. You were convincing him that that's what you were actually trying to do.
That you were the right person to do it.
But that was our end goal.
Right.
And so, because what we wanted to do,
like we want to play Metallica before your mission, sir.
Well,
like
but that doesn't work.
He's going to tell you to fuck off.
But that's a tool to get it done. The true mission was we were there to fight those. Well, we can get into that. That's a whole different conversation. Let me rephrase that. The ones that we should be engaging with are the ones that deserve to be engaged with. I think that's a better way to phrase that. It's not that any of us weren't willing to do our job while we were there, but we wanted to make sure that it was the right job we were doing. I know I've had offline conversations with both of you about, I don't necessarily have regrets of what I did in the military.
Right.
I just wanted to know that what I was doing, we were on the right path.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, obviously I had I am not a kinetic solution guy. That was not my job. I'm not, you are a kinetic solution guy. You are a kinetic solution guy. But my job was to make sure if we need to institute a kinetic solution, then it needs to be the right problem we're answering.
Right.
It can't just be a random problem.
Yeah.
And so that was and that's what we were briefing on, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the chance that when you unleash a kinetic solution, that the problem we are solving is the right problem.
Right.
So with the right people. Right.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, you put whatever noun you need to after that. I'm just going to say it's the right problem.
Well, because I wouldn't say half your job, but a part of your job is try to make sure that the wrong people aren't in the area.
Half is totally fair, if not more.
Yeah.
We viewed ourselves as a reverse combat multiplier.
Yep.
My job was to decrease the amount of non-combative. So that way the efficiency of our fighting force, which let's face it, we're the best in the world. If I can increase the efficiency, of you by 10%,
right,
mission accomplished. Like that's
right.
Because if it was a solution that we solved and it was the wrong solution, we've just increased our problem.
Yeah. Yep.
And so my job was we were a reverse combat multiplier. I shouldn't be making more fighters for the enemy.
Right.
I should be making less. And the problem when you're dealing with insurgency is, sure, you eliminated the one wrong bad guy.
Yeah.
But maybe it was a soft target.
Right.
Well, now I've made 2 more.
Yeah.
That's a combat multiplier.
Yeah.
You turned 1 target into 3.
Right.
That is not how we are trained to fight. Yeah. We are trained to take out 1 and remove 3. Like that's how we're trained to fight. And so we did that, but we did it from a larger view.
Right.
And literally once our security details and stuff like that, and I hate calling them that. I hate referring to the 82nd, the 101, the SF guys, any of that. This is my security detail. They weren't. It's just that I wasn't a pull trigger, and we needed pull triggers with us. So it
depends on the side that you're looking at, right? So
Sure.
you refer to it as an attachment or detachment, or
for anybody it's hard, right? Like if you've done it, it's hard to just refer to like, yeah, those guys were grunts, but that was just my attachment. And it's like, if shit pops off, that attachment doesn't give a fuck what my job is.
On our side, it's similar. Like when we were talking about the guys that were with us in 03 when you invaded the country.
Because when it started, it looked like you were babysitters.
But they were the Psyops guys that were attached to us.
Right. But it also, and
they fell under our responsibility.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that we were totally aware that the grunt element or the kinetic
whatever
solution,
force it was that you guys were attached to,
the forward facing force.
Yeah,
we know when we first showed up, we were viewed as these guys we have to babysit. Great. Now we have these guys that can't function with us, and now we're responsible for them.
We never looked at them as we had to babysit them.
We had to keep them alive.
That was it. Yeah. But it was the same thing as when we had our own Delta company, which is our gun trucks that were attached to us for a mission. Even though they were grunts and we knew exactly what they were capable of, and they were part of our fucking battalion,
but they're still not you.
They were still our attachment, and we were still responsible for their safety in our mission.
One of the great things was, and thank you to Big A Army. The best move they ever made with us is when they pushed us out of, because I think originally the branch fell into Ordnance Corps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, which didn't make any damn sense at all.
I just don't think they knew where to put you guys.
They didn't. Because, it was an FA. It was a functional area before they branched it. Right. So, and I think it was Ordnance Corps originally. I think
it
predates me.
You probably fell under the engineers.
No, it wasn't.
It was
Ordnance Corps. It wore the bomb, the whole 9 yards. And so I know I should be better at my heraldry or whatever.
Before you got there, it doesn't matter.
But it was before I was there, so fuck it. When they pushed us over, the one thing that I will thank them for is that they retasked us. So we went from, so I belong to what's called a TPT, which is a Tactical Psychological Operations Team. Tactical means right here, right now. Just like you have strategic, which is the overarching look at it from the 30,000 foot view. And then there's the tactical level, which is, well, my boots are in the dirt. So I'm going to make the call that we need to make right fucking now. The nice thing about when they made that transition was there's a training level that came with that was beyond just the classroom theoretical stuff. And so it was, yes, you have to do all this classroom theoretical stuff. And now we're going to go do reflexive fire drills for the rest of the afternoon.
You got tactile training for the environment you're about to go into.
But I can relate to you, like as a sniper team, right?
Because there is a lot of classroom, schoolroom stuff that goes on.
But I'm saying, like when you get attached, right? As a sniper team, I would get attached to a company. It was that company or platoon's job to keep you alive. Us alive until we got into our position to do our job.
Right.
And even once you were in your position, you still fell under their responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so
we were a force multiplier.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
But we weren't the.
By the way, I don't know if Psyop ever directly interacted with your team. Psyop learned very quickly how valuable a sniper element was. Very early on.
We had Psyops initially, and then I don't think we ever fucked with them again.
We had it for Anajaf.
Yeah.
We had it for Baghdad.
But once we got in place.
After Baghdad, we never had them.
We'll talk about that offline, but I'd like to know like what I want to get into like the FOB conversation, like what camp and stuff like that you guys were. We'll talk about it offline. But
so we weren't at a camp, and that's why.
So this is really interesting. We've never had this conversation before, so I'm thoroughly interested in this right now. Like I've known you guys for a while, but we've never actually sat down and like had this.
This is like 2003. There weren't camps.
Like, that's fair. That's totally fair.
There was one.
Oh, and
in Mosul, there was where all the palaces were, but it was all support.
Yeah,
there was no infantry that was per se stationed there, for lack of better words. We guarded it, but we never lived there. We never ran operations out of it.
Some of us did.
Because but it was because it was either Overwatch or support.
Yeah.
No, because but at the time, once you quote unquote lived there, you were no longer with the line unit.
No, we had Delta Company and Scouts who were the only infantry there.
Really?
But Delta ran out of that because they needed support for their vehicles. They needed fuel. They needed everything. All the other line companies for our battalion that covered that entire half of Mosul.
And that's interesting because you're looking at
we were spread out.
You're looking at a 5-year gap, and that 5-year gap. It's amazing just how much.
But no,
how much
we're talking about like a 7-month gap of when we took the city and we controlled the city to when they pulled everybody back, centralized into a fob, and then they had no control over that city anymore.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But we should.
Anyway, so you got out of the military when 07?
13.
13, excuse me. You went in 07.
Yeah, I was older.
Okay. So when you got out in 13, what did you do after?
I immediately went into the cigar industry.
Okay. So your transition was I got off active duty and now I'm going to pursue a passion, or I'm going to get paid?
No, it's absolutely a passion. I got into cigars pre-military. Like I said, I went in older.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. A lot of my friend group and stuff like that, you talk to them and they were like, no, I signed my paperwork like spring of my senior year and then went into the military.
2 days after I turned 18.
I was later.
17.
I had, there's advantages and disadvantages to that.
Yeah.
There's some of me that goes like, man, I wish I'd have gone in when I hadn't connected to anything. It was literally, I didn't know the world at all when I joined the military. But then at the same time, with what I did for the military, I'm glad I went in older. That's also why you'll see that 70% of the reserve forces or the Psyop forces in the reserves, the psychological operations community actually views civilian experience as an asset going into Psyop. Because you're not in that regimented mindset. Not that it's a bad thing in line units and stuff, that's a very good thing. In Psyop, it's not a great thing. You don't want that.
You want to be able
B to C.
You want to be able to think outside the box.
I mean, Psyop are the ones that invented information operations. Like all of that came out of my community. So, but yeah, so literally as soon as I essentially could smoke cigars, I started smoking cigars.
Yeah.
So, immediately got in, made all the same mistakes that everybody does. Thought that CAO moon trance was like the best thing that's ever existed. And then got into it really got into it as a passion.
So after you got out,
graduated boot camp and my gift was a box of cigars.
Nice.
Like that was.
So after you got out, how and what was your first job in the cigar industry?
Retail, actually. So after I got out of the service, my first job in premium tobacco was working in a retail. Am I allowed to shout out stores?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Emerson Cigars
nice.
in the Hampton Roads area. So I worked in the Virginia Beach location. I got hired as a retail guy, just an hourly sales associate.
Okay.
And then got promoted to assistant manager of that store.
Yeah. And
then the timing was just right. And the guy that had been the general manager of their flagship store was leaving to go to so the Hampton Road area is also home to Norfolk.
Yeah.
So Norfolk, Virginia is where they build the ships. And he left. He was a shipwright, left and worked in the tobacco industry for like 10 years. And then he gave up his job to go back and be a shipwright. Essentially, the union was like, hey, we'll pay you double what you were making if you'll come fucking build ships.
Where do I sign?
Right. Prior Navy guy, the whole 9 yards. So he left. What was cool is there was like an 8-week transition period. So I got hired. Scott Regina, amazing store owner, huge champion for the industry.
Huge.
Unmistakable what he's done for the cigar world in the last.
To this day, he's still fighting.
He fights. He's expanded it. He's proven. Scott's an amazing guy for the industry,
and he's just a genuinely good human being to have a conversation with.
Scott is also just his brother too. Both of them are the Reginas are awesome. And so he trusted me with his flagship store, and he hired me as his manager of his flagship store. And So I took that over, got an 8-week training period with his prior manager who knew everything about retail tobacco, like how to give the customer that experience.
Right.
What I mean by that experience is that when you think of what it's like to go into a cigar store, that was that guy. It was the whole, hey, sir, how you doing? Shake his hand, walk him in the humidor, get a feel for where his smoking level was, like his smoking education and all that kind of stuff. And it was that concept of you are the most important person in the world right now.
Right.
And we're going to treat it that way.
Yeah.
Working with Scott, I had the luxury of working it was a white label store. So it was Davidoff white label. It was all the super premiums. It was all that kind of stuff. An amazing clientele. And so it was an amazing training session for what the world is like in the premium cigars.
Okay.
I learned so much, even being a smoker for a while. And I'm from San Antonio. So here in our city, we have some amazing tobacco retailers in San Antonio. Another group of champions in the industry that really push it. But I was only consumer.
Yeah.
So going to work for a guy like Scott and really getting to see what it was like on even the retailer side of the industry, and the difference in how you should treat a customer to bring them in and make them.
You kind of lucked out. And
I did. And absolutely. This was not on purpose. I lucked out.
I might be using the wrong word for it because I don't know if if Emerson's was a place that you seeked or if it just kind of happened.
I'm not going to lie. I got out of the military and I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do.
Yeah. Just like the rest of us.
And so I was working bullshit jobs. I won't even get into what the fuck it was, but you get out of the military and you're like, hey, I have this really specific skill set that I don't know what the fuck to
for
deal
anything
with.
else.
And Scott saw it as an opportunity. And so Scott brought me in and he really gave me the opportunity. And Scott was one of the ones that was like, we're going to put you through Tobacconist University.
Right.
We're going to set up meetings where the reps are going to come in. The reps are going to talk to you one-on-one as the manager. I mean, like Scott, when I say that Scott is a true champion in the industry, if you're dealing with any of his staff at all, you're dealing with the best in the world. I mean, these guys are just, they're next level.
And for the people, there's probably a small percentage of people that will listen to this and understand what we're talking about with Emerson's. But the majority of the people, I don't believe that they'll understand, mainly because they're not from that area. They've never been to the shop, or maybe they're not as well versed in the industry to understand who the Reginas are.
Yeah, and that's a super interesting just situation in itself.
But you walking into Emerson's as your first,
and I was a consumer,
experience of working in the cigar industry, puts you leaps and bounds above 90% of the people that are entering this industry.
100%. This is like you kind of like cigars and somehow got a job at Fender. I mean, it's next level. And like so
these guys, their humidors alone are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Their locations are prime, every single one of them. And they have multiple locations. But the knowledge that's behind the ownership and staff that they have, and like you said before, the things that the Regina family does for the industry.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Is next level. The commitment that they have. Like, these are the people that are like, we love what we do, and we're gonna fight tooth and nail to make sure we can continue doing what we're doing.
So far beyond
for
just
generations,
just
not
the
just
money.
For us.
Yeah, I mean, so, and you need to keep in mind when Scott took over, he's the son-in-law of. So he married into the family and had so much passion that his father-in-law passed it on to him. So, I mean, that's the level of passion in Scott Regina, is when somebody can build a family business. Yeah. And then you marry in and you care so much shit about it that the father-in-law's like, yeah, you can take it over. And his wife is outstanding too. Right. Like, so Scott and his wife are the primary owners, his brother's involved. It's still a family business. Yeah. But I was a consumer. I was working bullshit jobs, but I wasn't going to give up cigars. So it was I'll do nothing else so that I can buy cigars.
How long were you at Emerson's?
I was at Emerson's about 14 months.
Okay. And what'd you end up doing after that?
So, I was young and dumb and thought I was slick.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I was working for Emerson Cigars. You guys are manufacturers. You understand the reputation of Emerson Cigars.
Yeah.
You probably understand the reputation of that territory too. Just the other retailers that are just near him it's some of the best in the world.
It really is.
Or within like a 4-state like little bubble. And so I was working there. I'm a huge fan. Am I allowed to say other brands on the show?
Like whatever.
Okay. So,
absolutely.
By the way, go buy as much Warfighter as you possibly fucking can. They make my favorite cigar in the world. So currently, seriously.
Which one is that, by the way?
It's the Garrison 556, the Corojo wrapper. I smoke the dog shit out of the cigar in every shape and size that you guys make it.
He told me dealer choice when I got him a cigar earlier,
and he didn't get me my cigar
because he already had 2 of them today.
I did.
So I'm like, here, I want you to smoke this one.
Well, that doesn't count the 2 Corojo Minutemen that I smoked for breakfast this morning. So seriously, you guys, I know you're my friends and blah 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 blah. That cigar. So I talked to you about it at my wedding. There's only one other cigar that I smoke as much as I smoked that cigar.
There's one thing to. Like, we've known you long enough now where there's one thing to be like, oh, I really like this cigar. And you smoke it in front of us to allow us to understand that you like it. But there's another thing that with the length of time that we've known you and how close we've known you, that you can't bullshit us for that long.
No. I buy it by the
can't just be like, hey guys, I like this cigar and I'm just going to play this game. No,
like, I buy it
legitimately.
I buy it by the box. I buy it, the Minutemen, I buy it by the bundle. Like it's just a fantastic cigar. But this is predating you guys. And to this day, they're still probably number one for me. I'm a massive La Flor Dominicana fan.
Yeah.
Have been since I started smoking. I'm just a massive fan of the brand. Lito is an amazing guy.
Yeah.
But I was a huge La Flor Dominicana fan. And so the rep for La Flor Dominicana, when he would come to my territory, always spent a lot of time in my store because I was the general manager of the store. And so he would come and we would do like impromptu stuff where it was like, hey, the rep's here. If you buy 3, I'll give you one and stuff like that. And I would just take it out of his trunk stock and we would do the stuff. But I sold a shit ton of La Flor Dominicana because it's what I was smoking all the time.
Right.
So even as a rep, or not a rep, as a manager of the store, almost everybody would ask you, hey, what are you smoking? And it was almost always a La Flor. And so I sold a lot of it, became friends with this rep. We were going to dinner and all that kind of stuff because I was just blowing these cigars out of the water.
Yeah.
And then a position opened.
Yeah.
So he came to me and was like, I know how much you love this. Do you want to make the jump? Do you want to go from retail to the manufacturer side and be a rep?
There is a jump. Let's talk about that for a second.
It's a different animal.
Because there's a lot of people that are in the industry that work in a shop and they're like, oh, my dream job would be to be a rep.
It's not the same thing.
Is it really though?
Well, I think Jazz, you can enlighten.
But that's why I wanted to start with that because in a perfect world, it's a phenomenal job.
The only way I can describe it is a jump. So you're used to, you wake up in your bed, you take a shower, you get dressed, you go to your retail store that doesn't open until 10 o'clock in the morning.
And then people come to you.
And then people come to me and they walk in my humidor.
They already want to buy a cigar when they come to you.
If you walk in my store, you're looking to spend money and you're walking in my humidor. And at that point, you were either well versed enough in your cigars that you were going to walk in and you're going to tell me what you want.
This or this or this.
Right. And you're going to go give me a box of that. And you have those customers that would come in and be like, hey, every week I know without a shadow of a doubt, Triple B's walking in and I miss you, buddy. If you ever fucking summary this is a real guy. His name was Triple B. Went to his retirement. Great. I'll tell you the story some other time. But Triple B, if you see this, I fucking love you, bud. But he would walk in and he would buy 2 boxes of Monte Cristo White Label every Monday morning.
Yeah.
Without fail. It's Monte Cristo White Label Toros. It was on my order every week to make sure that I fucking had that in the shelf and we serviced that customer. But that was the Emerson's model.
Yeah.
It was, how do we make every customer feel like they that we troweled a personal canal up to the store so that your yacht could park in front and pull up. That was the model.
If you want to be successful in this industry, that's essentially
the model you
model
have to embrace. And so when I was asked to go to make the jump, I had a lot of questions. Now, I was lucky that I was friends with the rep.
Yeah.
And what's it like? Give me your day. Because I was used to get up, take a shower, have breakfast, have some coffee, maybe smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
Be at my store by 10, open it up.
Yeah. 10 to 6, normal shift, Monday through Friday, maybe a weekend if you have an event.
Had a staff that covered for me if I had to take time off, like all of that kind of stuff, right? And the customer's walking into you, telling you what they want. Or they're going, I don't know shit. So I'm having a bachelor party, or I'm having a baby, or
at that point,
I thought about getting a cigar.
I'm going to tell you what you want.
And at that point, yeah. And so you need to be able to speak intelligently enough just to go, this is where you need to be. Yeah. Well, my friend told me this. I understand what your friend told you, but he's not the one in the shop right now. So here's what you actually need to be smoking. The rep side is so different. You're going to spend 300 nights a year in a hotel.
Yeah.
You're not going to have friends. Every friend you have also works in the industry.
And you see them in passing. Or because they cover the same territory, you're sharing your schedules and you're scheduling dinner nights. You're scheduling because that's the only social interaction you're going to get. Outside of talking to somebody in a shop for a sales call.
Because regardless of how much you think that shop likes you, how much that shop thinks you're a friend, any of that, it doesn't. Because as soon as I walk in there and I've got my suit on and I've got my sample bag with me and everything, I am there to go, hey, you need to give me money. And that friend that I had dinner with last night, fuck him. I want his shelf space so I can put more boxes in your humidor. It is one of the most cordial, cutthroat industries that you can possibly imagine.
Because it's super professional.
It's beyond professional. There's requirements that come along with it with certain brands. I loved LaFleur. They didn't have crazy ones, but we were expected to dress a certain way. Yeah. You were expected to pull up in a certain level of car.
Yeah.
You were expected to use a certain level of lighter. Like, because you are supposed to be projecting
the brand,
a premium product.
Yeah.
And if I don't look like, hey, there's so much LaFleur flowing through our account that I can afford that Hemi-powered Jeep that's outside.
Right.
That I can wear this watch, that I can wear this Hugo Boss, that I can use this DuPont and all that kind of stuff. You're missing out. Because if you're not selling this product, this is all money I'm going to sell to somebody else. And if you're not spending enough with me, you're also not going to get all the hyper premium stuff. You're not getting small batch. You're not getting factory press. You're not getting LG. Like, well, I want to carry LG for this Christmas. Cool. Show me the 27 facings.
Yeah.
Show me the 27 facing requirement that is needed to carry this fucking cigar. Oh, you're not doing that? You're not getting it. I don't know what to tell you. Well, I spend this much. Sure. But you don't have the facing requirement. So you're not getting it.
No.
But
LFD is big enough.
They are now.
Where they can do that.
They are now.
But even then.
Even then, we were so when I was there, we referred to ourselves as the king of the boutiques.
Let me rephrase what I was trying to say. Because of what you did then and the requirements the company had on you guys, meaning the reps at that time, LFD is what it is now.
Sure. And even in my period of time, we referred to ourselves and started to get referred to as the king of the boutiques.
But you guys aren't, well, I wouldn't say you guys, but LFD is not a boutique anymore.
Not now. They're if you're in the cigar world, you know the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, they were king of the boutiques. So once you start winning best cigar in the world and stuff like that, you have to give up the boutique label. You're too big at that point. But when I was there, it was. This is also in the middle of the boutique world. So this was the tweet ups and
right. This is when
everybody
Twitter actually held weight in the cigar industry.
Right. This was also anybody with $7,500 could start a boutique brand because some company would roll cigars for you and stuff like that. So they were. We can name some others too, but that's not the point of this podcast. But it's a different world. It was a huge jump. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
So how long
I have
did you
lifelong
work,
friends now.
How long did you
From
work
what-
as a rep for?
For LaFleur or just in general?
Well,
Yes.
take us through the progression.
Yeah. So as of right now, we knew that you were military.
Mhm.
You're Psyop. You got out of the military. You worked for Emerson retail, and then you transitioned from there to LFD.
Right.
So give us from there till
So LaFleur, I was with LaFleur for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, the Madero's family of cigars approached me and offered me the VP position for their entire family of brands. So that was seven brands.
okay.
In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have taken it. I probably should have just stayed with LaFleur. At the same time, I also know where LaFleur's at right now, and I'd probably still just be a rep in the Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
Still just slinging cigars. And
300 nights of fucking year in a
yeah,
hotel.
you guys know me well enough that treading water isn't really my jam. I'm not very good at it. But when you're young and you're trying to move your career and you're offered a VP position,
Yeah.
you take it. So it was a little bit more money, but it was a little bit more money with the opportunity to go grow
Right.
a bunch of brands. And so that was a whole new experience because they didn't have an in-house rep system.
Yeah.
LaFleur was one of the few boutique companies out there that had their own reps. These were
Right.
primary reps. So when I went into the VP position, I had to deal with brokers. So now it was this whole, hey, my brand's good enough for you to carry.
Yeah.
And then it was still 300 nights a year, but I was flying to all over the country to ride with brokers to make sure that they were doing their fucking job.
Right.
And so that turned into a whole next level of management. But the advantage to that was when you're in a smaller company, but at that position, you also have control of what's going to market.
True.
So then the experience came into, no, we've done that. This is what we need to look at, or this blend isn't strong enough. It's not keeping up with what the industry's doing. We need to reblend this. These labels aren't communicating. We need to redesign a label.
Right.
We need to redesign a box. Our promo is not good enough. What are our show specials? Like,
So by taking that job and moving to a different position, it put you more in line with the behind the scenes aspects of things than it does with the sales side of things.
And what's hilarious
you still
is
have to do
that
sales, but your focus, they focused you a little bit more on the product line.
right. So the cigar industry, the most common position that you will see, so you'll have like owners, and then the next position you'll see will be a position called the VP of Sales and Marketing.
Yep.
So they don't want to give you like president or whatever. They will make you VP of Sales and Marketing.
We don't want to tell everyone you run this bitch, but you run this bitch.
And so what's amazing is when you become a rep, you think you know what the fuck is going on.
You have no idea.
And then you become a VP and you're like, oh, I didn't know fuck all.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I'm not going to lie. I absolutely fucking loved it. I absolutely loved being
Because you
in
get your
that
hands
position.
dirty.
And that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it actually came back to the military experience. And it was, I know if I change this, this, and this, I know the response I'm going to get on the other end. And so you can start controlling that and watching it bleed in. There is something amazingly satisfying about being involved in a blend, watching that blend go out, get a successful marketing campaign, it hits, and then you start getting responses back.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this was awesome and that was awesome. And it was like, okay, yeah, it made me some money. But more importantly, something that I'm passionate about created a new passion in the industry that I'm in.
I can relate to that with our producer, Justin. And I can relate to that with our night shift cigar because Justin came in clutch on the design for the band and for the box.
Yeah.
We gave him left and right limits. We tweaked certain things, but he was our subject matter expert in getting that.
What's the market going to see? It's so in terms, that's the front facing side.
What brought it full circle is when we got our shipment in and I handed him a box out of that box, the first box that I opened, and I was like, you made this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and it's something else. It's a different experience.
Yeah.
And now we're sold out.
Yeah, we can't keep them in stock. So good fucking job, dude.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing experience. I mean, you guys have a stellar lineup, and it was you two that made the decisions on all of that stuff that formed the foundation for Warfighter. And so you understand the feeling of, hey, I had this idea, and then we made this idea, and I didn't know if fuck all was going to work, and then I put it out into the world, and the world went, good job.
But what I was saying with that was, we don't get that. Well, at least I'm speaking personally. I don't know if Scott feels the same way or not, but I'm assuming so. We don't get that same feeling, right? We have an idea. It gets put into production. It goes to market. We look at the data after it goes live, and we make emotional decisions whether we did good or did bad afterwards. But it doesn't have to do with how that looks. It has to do with how that portrays in the market.
So
right. But when I see the reaction of him off of that first box, that's what brought it full circle for me to understand that because we've launched products. Yeah. We've done this. We've done it however many times before that blend came out.
Right. And it's fucked up, but it's essentially one of those.
But in previous design elements on things that we've done before, it wasn't per se somebody in-house.
Sure. But let's go back to my favorite cigar. Okay. So when the first time the 556 showed up, banded, boxed, we had the whole 9 yards.
We also had 5 other blends show up the same day.
Sure. Because you made a core line. So I totally understand. So you have to have a foundational line.
It got drowned out.
It did. Yeah. We had 6 blends.
But
and it was like,
so they all showed up at the same time. They all showed up at the same time. Yeah. But what was that feeling like when you cut open that pallet the first time and saw what was an idea on the back of a napkin sitting in Nebraska, fucking doing nothing, and all of a sudden you had fucking product?
Do you want to know my honest
What was that feeling?
You want to know my honest feeling? Is we can finally start to pay back debt. Yeah. No bullshit.
Okay.
It has totally nothing to do with this cigar's phenomenal, or I can't wait till people smoke this.
You kick out so much money, and it takes so long to see something
we were so buried at that point in the company that it was like, oh my God, we can finally start paying our bills.
And so maybe that's where my luxury was.
But that's why I want to hear
it takes away
the separation.
It takes away.
And I think that's probably the thing, is that I had the separation. Mm-hmm. I had the separation to where I wasn't the one that had to sign the check.
Right.
And I wasn't the one, I didn't have to sign the check. I didn't have to sign the loan paperwork. I didn't have to sign any of that.
It sounds fucked up. Scott and I literally had this conversation a few hours ago today before we started recording the podcast we did earlier. And it was it doesn't matter the conversation we had, but it got to the point where it doesn't matter. It's not our money. And it's not a bad thing to say it that way, but it's the same thing when what you were talking about seeing something come to fruition and now it's in the market, right? The fact that you get the enjoyment because it was brought to market and you had a hand in it versus it was brought to market, but I had to cut the check for it.
I guess the only difference is that the stuff that it was like, yeah, we're going to bring it to market, but if it doesn't make any money, you're going to get fucking paid. But on
the opposite side of this, if it doesn't make any money, now we're in more debt.
Right. I had the luxury of the separation. So I wasn't on the hook for if it doesn't work. At the same time,
ultimately you were, because it was your job.
It was my job. And so that's what I'm saying is at the same time. But it wasn't
your investment.
If my idea didn't work.
You're fucked.
And I think it comes down to a passion issue. Mm-hmm. I love this industry. I legitimately love this industry. Yeah. I love the people I've met. I love nothing more than to see people that I knew that were nothing that are now fucking huge. And these are guys that I knew that were, now have full rep teams and they're out there doing it. Right. But when I met them, they had cigars in their trunk and they were the ones, the owners were the ones personally going and stuff like that. And I love seeing those guys do well. I love the industry. I've said this for Jesus Christ, 20 years now. I firmly believe deep down cigars are the great fucking equalizer.
Yeah. But so
your background, your money, your age, all of that gets deleted when we can sit down and we can cut and light a cigar and we can both go, oh, you enjoy smoking cigars? I enjoy smoking cigars. And all of a sudden, all of the other qualifiers that you build a tribe out of fucking disappear.
And then you can sit down and get to know somebody.
And then and it's really just a personality thing.
And then you get to realize that we are in two completely different tax brackets. And I probably shouldn't be having a conversation with you right now.
And you know what's great though is that those guys that are out of your tax bracket or under your tax bracket or whatever,
it doesn't matter.
All really of it goes away. And that is, honest to God, is what makes me love this industry. I love the craft of it. I love the flavor of it. I love all of that. But I can tell you right now, I have no questions asked friends that I have from the cigar industry. I have more, I'll put it this way, and you guys will understand.
Yeah.
I have more permanent friends from the cigar industry than I ever had from the military.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Because in the military, I'm limited to the guys that I interacted with.
But I can make new ones that are just as deep from this. And so when I was in charge of new blends or new releases and stuff like that, it may have been a personal investment piece or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was definitely I never viewed it as, well, fuck it, it's not my money.
No.
And then win at it.
And
So
wait.
Yeah.
It always had that gravity. I always acted like it was my money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so the losses, obviously, I'm not going to say I batted 1,000 when I wanted to put stuff out there. But at the same time, the victories were, God, they were so good. And so I love the industry. Given the opportunity to go back in, I'd probably do it. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Given the opportunity to get back into the industry, I'd probably take it. I love this. I just love the industry so much.
I'm going to speed things up a little bit because we're running a little long. But after that, what did you do next?
I lost my fucking mind and decided to go be a college student.
Okay, so that sucks. And then life went downhill after that.
Yeah. So hold on. What'd you go to college for?
Film.
No.
Originally?
What is like the nomenclature, for lack of better words? I don't know what they call it when you. What was your major and minor?
So I went to an art conservatory.
There it is.
Yeah. So I have a BFA in creative producing. Exactly. I have a bachelor in fine arts in creative producing.
Okay.
From the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. Their claim to fame is that the film program has a lower acceptance rates than Harvard Law.
Well, it's because there's like 14 people that want to do it.
So no, they only accept 99 students a year.
Okay. Is that because of the limitation that they have in their capabilities of teaching
it has
students?
To do with how they want to teach. So they don't want individual classroom sizes larger than 12 students because it doesn't allow one-on-one interaction.
Yeah.
So they limit it to 99 students. But it's a conservatory. So it's a you take 5 classes a semester. They're all worth 3 credits a piece.
Yeah.
You're on set every weekend. It's a full immersion. It's like going, the big ones that everybody knows about are like, for music, you go to Juilliard and stuff like that. It's the equivalent to that, but for film.
So after you got done with that, what did you do?
So I got divorced, which was a big one, which brought me back to Texas.
Okay.
And when I came back to Texas, I used my film degree, got into advertising, brand management, photography.
Yeah.
So did that for a while and then went back to the cigar industry and became the VP for another company.
For photography or for sales and actual cigar industry
So I was
stuff?
brought in. So on that one, they actually made me the VP of operations, which was a really interesting title.
So you're more in-house than you were.
No, it was everything. They just wouldn't give me the president title essentially. So operationally, I was the president of the company. Mm-hmm. But the owner wanted it to be owner president, and then he wanted a secondary.
Right.
And so I got the secondary position. So it was literally everything. And when they brought me in, it was we're losing market share. Can you reboot the brand?
Okay.
And so because of my experience and what I had done, I was like,
give it a shot.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. And we made a good run at it. And we were riding the ship.
Yeah.
But in any industry where you have passion, you are also going to have personalities that just don't click.
That's true.
And I found myself in a position to where I was very passionate. I was back in the boutique industry, which is where I wanted to be.
Right.
And so, yeah, let me caveat with, if I could go back in the industry, it wouldn't be like, oh, I work for General Cigar. Like, I would never want to do that. It would have to be in a brand where
I feel like if Jazz went back in the industry, it'd be like, well, I work for Warfighter Tobacco.
Don't tempt me. There was a personality conflict. There was a level of drive and I guess desire for where there was a serious schism to where I wanted to see the brand go and where the brand owner was ready to let the brand go.
Okay.
And so that...
And they didn't line up.
I wish him all the best, but it was one of those situations. And I don't think this is the right platform for me to really get into who that was. But
yeah, it doesn't matter.
But yeah, I did go back into the industry and I loved it. And then it honestly, my wife and I had a discussion about, hey, if you're going to keep doing this, do you really want to keep making money for somebody else?
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't want to make money for somebody else if they don't care as much as I do.
Right.
And so now I own a game store and bar. And
so you went pretty much full circle, just not in the same industry. You went from, for lack of better words, entry-level employee. Yep. You're a sales guy at a shop. Like there isn't really much lower unless you're part of cleaning.
No, straight up. I was hourly with commission.
Yeah.
Like that's
so you're entry level in the cigar industry, and then you moved your way up, assistant manager, and then you went rep, and then you went VP, then you went VP operations, VP sales, then you went VP operations. And then you realize that I can do more on my own for myself. And you transitioned out of that to a brief hiatus into a different industry, then into a business owner for yourself.
Right.
And so you kind of covered all spectrums.
I did. I was all over the place. And
what was your timeline? Like, so you got out of the military in
13.
Fuck me. In 13. Did you immediately go into the cigar industry?
From 13, I immediately went into the cigar industry. So we're talking from 13 to now. In the last 10 years, I went from as low as you can go in premium tobacco
to almost as high as you can go without being
to
a brand
short
owner.
Of owning a brand to now being
a business owner of your
self-employed in a non-related industry.
So you
in
realized
a 10-year window.
In 10 years that you can work for somebody at the beginning. And then 10 years later, you realize that you don't have the personality to work for somebody else. You can only work for yourself.
That's a hard question.
No, it's a statement. I didn't ask a question.
I will flat out tell you I'm a bad employee.
I am too.
I'm a horrible employee. I'm a horrible employee short of people. I'll flat out say it, short of people like Lito Gomez. Lito Gomez is a brand owner. He's a legend of the industry, and he will go down as a legend in the industry. Lito Gomez is the owner of La Flor Dominicana. If you don't know, nobody has ever had an interaction with Lito that doesn't say he was amazing to be with. Lito is one of those ones where if you tell him, you give me the tools, get the fuck out of my way,
he'd be like, here, go.
And fun. I'm good.
So I was going to say that I think you're a terrible employee unless you're given control.
If you let me do what I'm here to do, I'm a great employee.
Right.
If you're somebody that wants me to explain every decision I'm going to fucking make, and you're going to tell me how I should make every decision I'm going to make, I'm going to tell you you're fucking retarded, and it doesn't work. The other thing that will kill me is if you are if I'm out passioning you and it's your fucking business.
Yeah.
We're not going to.
Right.
We're not going to find equal footing.
Yeah. So from a listener standpoint, how hard was the transition from employee to owner? So
you guys will probably attest to this.
If you're going to give advice to somebody that makes that transition to be like, you know what, I've worked a whole bunch of jobs and I feel like all I'm doing is getting fucked and I can't make it work with somebody else. And I'm thinking about doing something on my own. What would your advice be to that person that's thinking about starting something on their own?
You have to care.
Yeah.
You have, absolutely 100% have to give a shit about what you're going to do. Because when you find out that to be self-employed, it's going to take 70 or 80 hours a week. It's going to be, you give up all of your hobbies, all of your extracurriculars and everything in order to make it work. Mm-hmm. You better really care about the industry you're going to go into. So, you know, when somebody comes to be like, well, it's only this much to get a franchise, or it's only this much to do this, that, and the other, or whatever, and you don't give a shit about it, you are going to be just as broke and unemployed at the end of that project as you were at the start of the project.
Right.
You have to really care about the industry and the experience that your customers are going to have. So I guess the biggest piece of advice is you have to care. But more importantly, you have to put your customer's experience with you ahead of your success.
Correct.
And that is the biggest piece of advice I'm going to give anybody that wants to be self-employed. You have to care more about what your customers are experiencing and dealing with you than you can about the math, the money. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Your customer has to view your experience as, this is the best experience I've ever had. And if you can't put the hours in to giving them that, you are going to fail every time.
So I think also on that, if you think like, well, it's not financially feasible for me to start a business or whatever, I'm going to argue with you. If there's a will, there's a way.
100%.
It might not be tomorrow, but if you want to get it done, like I started the gun shop, like I started though with nothing.
When you started the gun shop, it was a hobby in your basement.
It was, but you
wanted to get cans, and all the people around you could get cans from fucked you over.
But ultimately, I knew it would turn into a business.
Yes.
But it was just, I had to baby step it the fuck up.
But you were willing to put the grind in. And that's the deal. And that's the big thing. I will tell you right now, if you were ever going to look at it and go like, it's not financially feasible, it's never going to be.
No, there's never a good time to start.
If you're going to start a business, every time you look at starting a business and you're going to make that decision, you are going to be 10 toes over the edge on a cliff. And you're going to be looking at it going like, if I jump, I will be able to make the parachute in time.
But honestly, if you're not in that position, it's probably not a good idea to do that.
Yeah. And if you don't want to make sacrifices, right? But like when I went
have to be willing to give it
when
up.
I went from hobby level, having another job to I'm going to quit my job. I also sold my house and moved into a shitty house to make it happen.
Right.
Like, you
sacrifices.
There's always going to be sacrifices.
Before I started this one,
you're going to sacrifice time with your family. You're going to sacrifice your everything.
I remember that conversation, that first conversation that you and I had about you starting your current business.
Yeah.
And my advice to you was, I don't know enough about your industry to tell you if it's a good idea or not. But if this is what you're passionate about, you need to jump in fucking both feet and run with it.
And that's the deal, is that you have to look at it and go, I don't need a new car. I don't need all of the stuff that you think business owners are supposed to have, because those guys that you see that are self-employed or own companies or whatever that have all of that, you're seeing chapter 20 and you never saw chapter 1.
Yeah. It didn't happen overnight.
Go back and ask them what their chapter 1 looked like.
Yeah.
And when your chapter 1 is
chapter 1's very close to chapter 7.
But not even that. Give me your cliff give me your cliff notes on your first 5 years in business.
Yep.
Give me 45 seconds of day 1 to your 5-year mark.
Yeah.
So how was that? It sucked, didn't it? Yeah, it fucking sucked. Okay, now 5 years to 10 years.
Sacrifice and risk.
5 year to 10 year, how was that?
And look, I'm not gonna lie. It's not for those that want stability. If you're going like, oh, this will make it. No, don't go into it with that mindset. It's going to sound fucking nihilistic or whatever. if you're going to go into self-employment, if you're going to start your own company, if you're going to go do your own thing, you need to look at it and go like, I have the balls to recover from utter failure.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like
if you don't have that mindset, you're fucked.
The day you start your own business, you come to the realization that you're just like, you know what? Fuck my retirement.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
My retirement plan is to be successful.
Yeah. Like my retirement plan is to work my ass off to the point where I have enough money where I don't have to work.
And by the way,
don't know when that's going to be.
Yep. The only other thing I will tell you is if you're going to go into self-employment, if you're going to go do your own thing, make sure the people around you are cool with you when you had fucking nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you could build a business that could do really well.
Jazz, the day I met you, you had a photo video company.
Yep.
And outside of that, I don't think you were employed.
Nope.
I didn't have pants on.
Yep.
And we're still friends, and we are in entirely different financial
it's a different
places in our life now than we were when we met.
100%. And so surround yourself with the people that go, the character of this person is somebody I could be with, whether they have everything or they have nothing.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with those people because those are going to be the people that, like John said, I don't understand what you're doing.
I'm going to support you on it.
But I think you have the balls to go for it. So do it.
I think it's a great idea.
Because if it crashes and burns, even if you burn super bright and then it just...
But you don't know until you try it.
What?
And then it comes into nothing. You're going to need those people around after the fact that can still go, it's okay, buddy.
Let's reboot and try round two.
You're going to reboot and try round two.
I think coming from the military, right? Especially if we didn't retire. None of us here retired from the military, right? So you got out of the military.
Thank Christ.
And it was like you failed. You were at a 0 point, right? And we all recovered from it.
Yep.
So you have to go into business thinking, if this doesn't work, I'm going to be back at 0.
That's why.
But I've done it before.
I've done it before.
So
yeah,
I know how to crawl.
Yeah.
I love my self-employed friends because I love seeing them succeed. I love hearing when new milestones are hit and everything's going great. And I love hearing it. But I love my self-employed friends because it's like, look, if this all burns down tomorrow, you're still going to be my friend. And when you tell me the next thing that you're going to go do to hustle and fucking make for it, I know you have it in you to do it.
Yeah.
I'm still going to be your number one cheerleader. That business, regardless of what it does, I don't view that as a defining factor of the person.
Right.
More so, I view the defining factor of that person on you had the balls to go try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I respect the fact that you had it in you to go to go for it.
Right.
Whereas most people are like, no, I'm cool. I'm going to first and the 15th and I'm going to crank away and we'll be good. And in 25 years, I'll retire and I'll live on my fixed income and we'll be great. I would rather be surrounded by the people that can tell me the stories of like, no, I tried this and it was okay. And then it didn't. And then I tried this. And those guys it's a different animal. So I don't know. Number one piece of advice, prep for the failure.
Yeah.
Have confidence that you're going to do well. Don't be cocky, but trust that it's going to work because you're going to put the effort in, but prep for the failure.
Yeah.
Know that it can all go away.
In true military fashion, the caveat on that.
Let's walk this dog a little bit.
Right. Don't give yourself a plan B.
Well, that worked for us.
But you can, but you're always going to fall back on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it is, I'm going to make this work, hell or high water. This is the fucking path that I'm going to do, and I'm going to fucking do it to the point where I catastrophically fail.
Yeah.
Because until that point, you're still viable. You can still make it work. You know what I mean? But if you go into it with a hint in the back of your mind that, oh, you know what, if this doesn't work, I have something else.
As soon as it gets hard, I'm going to quit.
Yeah. And I'm just going to transition. I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
You failed from day one. Before you even started, you already failed.
I view safety nets as just guaranteed failure.
Yeah. I just had this conversation with my sister. She's like, well, I'm really scared about transitioning into this new job. I'm like, the only reason you're scared is because you have to give up your current job.
Yeah.
And that's your safety net. And you've had that for 6 years.
Yeah.
You give up your safety net, your life will explode.
Yeah.
It will go to places you never thought it would get to. But because you're holding that safety net over you, you're restricting the growth that you can have on your own.
Yep.
Yep.
100%.
Well, let's wrap this. Jazz, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I appreciate this
was a great conversation.
sir.
I don't have here. Pour me a little of that. Thanks, buddy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I did not get to. I wanted to hear some funny stories, but we'll have you on again. We'll do it then.
for some funny
I'll come back
stuff.
anytime. That'd be great. Anyways, go buy Warfighter wherever you can fucking find Warfighter because they're outstanding.
What is your store?
So I own a tabletop game store called Battle Pub Games. You can find us at battlepub.com.
Why is it called Battle Pub?
So we have a craft beer bar inside of our store. We only carry Texas-made craft.
Nice.
So we have about 30 beers on our menu right now.
And I might have heard that your store might be kind of large.
We're the largest play space in Texas. So we're about 12,000 square feet.
What games do they play?
Yes.
Well, no, okay,
Shoots and
hypothetically,
ladders.
I'm listening. I hear Battle Pub games, and I don't know what you do. Like, are you playing hopscotch or what?
It's not your Walmart games. So we're not Monopoly, Parcheesi, all of those kind of things. It's a lot of strategy board game or strategy tabletop games, which gets into like your Warhammer World, Age of Sigmar, 40K.
Yep.
Some of the World War II and historical reenactments, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering. What's known as advanced board gaming. So if you've ever played anything like Catan or anything like that, it's those. Plus, there's more of that kind of stuff.
And you serve beer.
And we're a full craft beer bar. So I have a 24-seat craft beer bar in my. So if you don't like games, but you like craft beer, we can serve you too. We even have an exclusive beer on tap.
It's only made for you guys.
It's exclusively made for us. I won't give you the ABV, but I will tell you an 8-ounce pour of it is the equivalent to 2 shots of Jack Daniels.
Nice.
So, if you're in the San Antonio area or if you're into all the nerdy shit that I'm into, battlepub.com will take care of you as well.
There you go.
Where do they find you on social media?
We are at Battle Pub Games on just about every platform.
Okay.
Battlepub.com has a hyperlink on it as well. So you can find everything over there.
And do you want to shout out your personal or are you just going to stick with business?
No, we'll just stick with the business. My
Perfect.
personal shit's boring as shit. I haven't posted shit
I was
in
going to say, I
years.
don't think you posted in like 3-4 years.
No, it's really bad. It's really bad.
So yeah,
I just got married and didn't post anything about it. So
I did.
You did.
And your wife did.
Yeah. Yeah. My personal stuff is very, very boring.
But anyways, huge shout out and thank you for coming on the show today, talking about your experience in the industry and the progression that you've done in the past 10 years.
Like I said, I absolutely love this industry. If any of you guys out there listening get the shot to work in this industry, even at the retailer level, do it. It's an amazing experience.
It's really fun. But yeah, on that note, you guys have fun. Go smoke Warfighter, and we're gonna go have a cigar and a cocktail.
Yeah.
Oh man, I like this plan.
Right?
Yeah.
It
You
doesn't
didn't tell me
suck.
that was part of the show.
Oh, that's how it ends.
That's what we did during the show. And
cheers, boys.
We already did this, and I'm out again.
Oh, sorry.
Cheers.
And all the listeners, we'll see you guys next Friday.